Greetings, honored guests, to the House of Branching Paths. I am pleased to see that you have received your invitation. We have summoned you here for a matter most dire, but first, please come in out of this dreary weather. Unfortunately, you will find that the interior of the house is also quite dreary at the moment. The house is not what it once was, I am afraid, which touches upon why you are here. But first, forgive my rudeness. It has been some time since we had guests. I have forgotten introductions. I am not your host. My name is of no consequence. Suffice it to say that I am the butler of this house, and one of the few staff who still remains. If you will follow, I will lead you to your hosts. They are collectively known as the Circle. Tonight, the Circle has gathered in the observatory to discuss their mission, the self-same mission that led them to send your invitation. I will let them enlighten you on the matter, for we have now arrived. The Circle.
Welcome, welcome. We were hoping you received our invitation. Please come in, gather round the fire.
Indeed. We haven't used those communication channels in a great many years, but you have arrived just in time. Allow us to begin with introductions. May I first present to you my companion, the enchanting, alluring Lady Morgana.
Hello all. Yes, as my friend mentioned, my name is Lady Morgana. You may recognize that name if you are a purveyor of tales that deal in the nautical or mystics of the waters around us. In fact, my namesake is a part of a particularly popular story, but we shall save that for another day. Some may call me a witch, others a nymph, but I myself prefer sorceress. Sorceress, in fact, of all the seven seas and the creatures you see, and the ones you do not. Though I may sound like the lilting waters of a nearby brook, I also contain the wonder and, at times, the fear of what lies beneath the deepest trenches of the oceans and seas. Remember that the same calm waters of the day can also quickly turn to the strong tempest of the night. And may I introduce the mysterious, mystical, and whimsical Grand
I greet you all as
Master
well.
Emrys.
As my friend has said, I am Grand Master Emrys, at your service, a name a few of the well-read among you might also recognize, but that is another thing altogether. I have earned my title of Grand Master through my mastery of many things, of instruments and tools, words and weapons, and yes, also of several types of magic. I have been called many things before, though. Sage, advisor, beggar, actor, thief, and even, a time or two, kingmaker. The weak, unassuming, and downtrodden are of special interest to me, as I am sure you will all find should you visit us often enough, which I hope most of you do.
We have been members of the Circle very nearly since the stories began. Before us, the stories were wild.
They had nowhere to go.
But now they can all be heard here, in the Circle. Our great Circle has diminished over time, and our quest now, honored guest, is to build up our Circle once again.
You may wonder why now our Circle is of two. Times have changed so much over the millennia, and the importance of spoken word is thought of less and less.
But we are here to bring it forth once more, to carry on the art, the potential, the growth, the importance of these tales.
Ah, I see. Our great augury has drawn your attention. It is quite a wondrous creation. One of my best, if I do say so myself. Rather than merely telling the time upon this sphere, it tells the time in all spheres and heavenly bodies across our domain. Ah, and speaking of heavenly bodies, I do believe I see the crackle of a story on those flames.
The fire burns bright, with stories ever knowing.
Story that is fitting to our quest.
Yes, I do see it, as we begin our great journey to make the circle whole once more. So now shall we tell a tale of a similar journey, one that seeks out to return the lost.
This story comes to us from Norwegian beginnings.
In 1910,
East of the sun and west of the moon. Once upon a time there was a poor man who had so many children that he didn't have much food or clothing to give them. Pretty children they all were, but the prettiest was the youngest daughter, who was so lovely there was no end to her loveliness.
Yet I had never wanted for much until my life changed. My family all sat round the fire one night, busy with this or that, but just then, all at once, something gave 3 taps on the window pane.
Then the father went out to see what was the matter, and when he got out of the doors, what should he see but a great, big, white bear. "Good evening to you," said the white bear. "Same to you," said the man. "Will you give me your youngest daughter? If you will, I'll make you as rich now as you are now poor."
Well, once my father had heard this, he set out to convince me I had to go with the white bear. And when the white bear returned, I willfully went. While traveling together, the white bear asked,
"Are you afraid?"
No, I wasn't.
"Well, mind and hold tight by my shaggy coat, and then there's nothing to fear," said the bear.
So we rode along until we came to a castle. After dinner, I was overcome with sleep and was taken to a bed made as fair as anyone would wish. All that was in the room was gold or silver. But when I had gone to bed and put out the light, a man came and laid himself alongside me.
That was the white bear, who threw off his beast shape at night. But she never saw him, for he always came after she had put out the light, and before the day dawned he was up and off again.
It was curious, and I longed to know more, though I tried to heed the bear's advice, who always warned me.
If you become too curious, it will bring bad luck on us both.
But I couldn't help it. One night, when the man came and lay down beside me, and I heard him sleep, I got up, and I struck a light, and I let the light shine on him, and I saw that he was the loveliest prince one had ever set eyes on. I fell so deep in love with him on the spot, and I stooped to look more closely.
"What have you done? Now you have made us both unlucky, for had you held out only this 1 year, I had been freed. For I have a stepmother who has bewitched me, so that I am a white bear by day and a man by night. But now all ties are snapped between us. Now I must set off from you to her. She lives in a castle which stands east of the sun and west of the moon. And there, too, is a princess with a nose 3 ells long, and she is the wife I must have now."
I wept. I begged the prince not to leave, and I asked if I could go with him, but he told me I should never find the way, for it lay east of the sun and west of the moon. I awoke the next morning, and he was
Gone. She set out to find her prince. She travelled many, many days, till she came to a lofty crag. Under it sat an old witch, who played with a golden apple, which she tossed about. The girl asked,
"Do you know where I can find the castle east of the sun and west of the moon?"
The witch thought briefly, then answered,
I know not where the castle east of the sun and west of the moon lies, but thither you'll come, late or never. You may have the loan of my horse, and on him you can ride to my next neighbor. Maybe she'll be able to tell you. Oh, dearie, take this gold apple with you.
So she got upon the horse and rode a long, long time, till she came to another crag, under which sat another old witch, who played with a gold carding comb. The girl asked,
"Do you know where I can find the castle east of the sun and west of the moon?"
The witch thought briefly, then answered,
I know not where the castle east of the sun and west of the moon lies, but thither you'll come, late or never. Oh, you may have loan of my horse, and on him you can ride to my next neighbor. Maybe she'll be able to tell you. Oh, and dearie, take this gold carding comb with you.
So she got upon the horse and rode a long, long time, till she came to another crag, under which sat another old witch, who played with a gold spinning wheel. The girl asked,
"Do you know where I can find the castle east of the sun and west of the moon?"
The witch thought briefly, then answered,
"I know not where the castle east of the sun and west of the moon lies, but thither you'll come, late or never. You may have the loan of my horse, and on him you can ride to my next neighbor. Maybe she'll be able to tell you. Oh, and dearie, take this gold spinning wheel with you." I rode many, many days, a weary time, until I came to the East Wind's house. And I asked the East Wind if he could tell me the way to the prince who dwelt east of the sun and west of the moon. The East Wind answered,
"Yes, I have often heard tell of it, the prince and the castle. But I couldn't tell the way, for I have never blown so far. But if you will, I'll go with you to my brother, the West Wind. Maybe he knows, for he's much stronger."
And so we went briskly along until we came to the West Wind's house, and I asked the West Wind if he could tell me the way to the prince who dwelt east of the sun and west of the moon. The West Wind answered,
"Yes, I have often heard tell of it, the prince and the castle. But I couldn't tell the way, for I have never blown so far. But if you will, I will go with you to my brother, the South Wind. Maybe he knows, for he's much stronger."
And so we went briskly along until we came to the South Wind's house, and I asked the South Wind if he could tell me the way to the prince who dwelt east of the sun and west of the moon. The South Wind answered,
"Yes, I have often heard tell of it, the prince and the castle. But I couldn't tell the way, for I have never blown so far. But if you will, I'll go with you to my brother, the North Wind. Maybe he knows, for he's much stronger and older than the rest of us."
And so we went briskly along until we came to the North Wind's house, And I asked the North Wind if he could tell me the way to the prince who dwelt east of the sun and west of the moon. The North Wind answered,
"Yes, I have heard and seen it, the prince and the castle. Once in my life I blew an aspen leaf thither, but I was so tired I couldn't blow a puff for ever so many days after. But if you really wish to go thither and aren't afraid to come along with me, I'll take you on my back and see if I can blow you thither."
"Yes, with all my heart."
"Very well then, but you must sleep here tonight, for we must have the whole day before us if we are to get thither at all."
Early next morning, the North Wind woke me and puffed himself up and blew himself out. And off we went, high up through the air as if we would never stop, till we got to the world's end. The North Wind still had so much strength left in him that he managed to throw me under the windows of the castle which lay east of the sun and west of the moon.
The next morning, the girls sat down under the castle window and began to play with the gold apple. And the first person she saw was the Long-Nose who was to have the prince. She spoke.
"What do you want for your gold apple, you lassie?"
said the Long-Nose, and threw up the window. "It's not for sale for gold or money."
"Then you may name your own price,"
said the princess. "Well, if I may get to the prince who lives here and be with him tonight, you shall have it."
So the princess got the gold apple, but when the lassie came up to the prince's bedroom at night, he was fast asleep. She called him and shook him, and between whiles she wept and swore, but all she could do, she couldn't wake him up. So in the daytime she sat down under the castle windows and began to card with her carding comb, and much the same thing happened.
"What do you want for your gold carding comb, you lassie?"
said the Long-Nose, and threw up the window. "It's not for sale for gold or money."
"Then you may name your own price,"
said the princess. "Well, if I may get to the prince who lives here and be with him tonight, you shall have it."
So the princess had the gold comb. But when the girl went up, she found the prince fast asleep again. And all she called, and all she shook and wept, she couldn't get life into him. So, in the daytime, the lassie sat down outside the castle window and began to spin with her golden spinning wheel. And that, too, the princess with the long nose wanted to have.
"What do you want for your gold spinning wheel, you lassie?"
said the Long-Nose, and threw up the window. "It's not for sale for gold or money."
"Then you may name your price,"
said the princess. "Well, if I may get to the prince who lives here and be with him tonight, you shall have it."
And by those in the castle who had heard the young girls wailing, this night for the prince was different. That evening, when the princess came with her sleepy drink, the prince made as if he drank, but he threw it over his shoulder, for he could guess that it was a sleepy drink. So, when the girl came in, she found the prince wide awake.
"My love, I've traveled far and wide. I've met witches, I have rode the winds, and now I come to you."
"Ah, you have come just in the very nick of time, for tomorrow is to be our wedding day. But now I won't have to marry the princess. Here is what we shall do.
The prince told me that he would declare to his stepmother that he shall not marry anyone unless they could remove the tallow stains from his shirt. And that since I had dropped the tallow, only I would be able to remove it, even if the princess tried her hardest. The next day, he went to his stepmother and said,
I've got a fine shirt, which I'd like for my wedding shirt, but somehow or other it has got 3 spots of tallow on it, which I must have washed out. And I have sworn never to take any other bride than the woman who's able to do that. If she can't, she's not worth having.
Well, that was no great thing, they said, so they agreed. And she, with the princess, began to wash away as hard as she could. But the more she rubbed and scrubbed, the bigger the spots grew. The prince declared,
Ah! You're none of you worth a straw. You can't wash. Why, there, outside, sits a beggar lassie. I'll be bound she knows how to wash better than the whole lot of you. Come in, lassie, he shouted.
I came into the castle, and almost before I had taken it and dipped it into the water, it was white as the driven snow, and whiter still.
Yes, you are the lassie for me.
At that, the stepmother and princess flew into such a rage they burst on the spot. At least, I've never heard a word about them since.
As for the prince and princess, they took with them all the silver and gold, and flitted away as far as they could from the castle which lay
East of the sun and west of the moon. The end.
What a marvelous tale of loss that ended in love.
Perhaps we should enlist the help of the North Wind to search and complete the circle.
The winds are always a helpful lot, and they do owe us a favor from the last time.
Ah, yes, they were all quite tangled up after that witch of Oz stormed them together to carry a whole house, and then...
But that is a story for another day. But stories, what are they really? As my friend and I have mentioned, our quest is to complete our great circle once more, to hear the voices ring out with the possibilities each of those stories holds.
Yes, honored guest, and we would like to tell you what we have in store for you. Upon your return to the House of Branching Paths, we shall bring you tales of love, betrayal, stories from well-known greats, and some new to you.
Stories that we have held in us, stories that we have heard firsthand, or perhaps even were present for.
But for now, honored guest, we must say goodbye.
Yes, my friend, I do believe I see the crackle of a story on those flames.
The fire burns low with stories ever glowing. Honored guests, come, follow me. You mustn't stay at the house too long. You might become a permanent resident. Stay close behind me, my guests. Whatever you do, don't answer any voices you hear on the way out. Oh, but do come back. Hearing the circle's stories bring me to life.
You have been listening to The House of Branching Paths, a theatrical podcast experience created by Mark Kilmer and Caroline Miller. For more of our content, join us on our Patreon at patreon.com/The House of Branching Paths. For links to all of our social media and to find a comprehensive list of contributors, please follow our link tree below. And for more stories like this and beyond, be sure to visit your local library. Thank you for joining us, honored guests, and remember, the fire may burn low, but the stories are ever glowing.